People online are like, you trust these peptides? They've been around for like 6 months. No, they haven't.
You heard about it 6 months ago.
Yeah, you heard about it 6 months ago.
It's a chain of amino acids that can signal different aspects of the body to change.
Do you catch for this? That's my question.
Always. I mean, so far no one in the hospital really knows of my alternative identity.
Until now.
No.
Dude, you left out a huge one though, is that the enhanced games.
The enhanced games are Olympics with steroids. Our athletes that are going to be enhanced, they're going to be on doctor-prescribed protocols for every steroid you can imagine, and they're going to compete next month in May in Las Vegas for this inaugural games.
We got a fun one today, everybody.
Maybe the best episode yet.
Potentially the most anticipated
At least for me.
for us. Yeah.
This is the main event.
And we had to get a Abood and a chair next to us for this.
Yes. Today we're going to talk about the world of looks maxing, peptides, bioregulators. We're going to cover the future. And we're going to call the future before it happens. We are in the trenches, really. And so before we dive into the world of biohacking in its current state, we have to introduce Dr. Abood Bakri. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Abood Bakri is a huge influence in the state of biohacking, in the state of longevity medicine, really the health model online right now. Dr. Bakri was talking about retatrutides and GLP-1s before anyone even really knew about them. And today we're going to talk about bioregulators. Dr. Bakri, you've been in the trenches studying with self-experimentation, putting your own body on the line, quite literally, before even announcing any protocols to anyone. You've been testing on yourself. You have really largely devoted yourself to studying the history of these medicines, or therapies we can call them, to understanding the biology on such a deep level. I'm so excited to unpack all of this stuff with you today, because as much as I speak with you about this as like on a friend level, and I follow you and I read all your stuff, I know I'm going to learn something today. And so I'm so excited for everyone who's kind of uninitiated and even for those who are initiated. Let's find out how looks maxing is the stepping stone to modern biohacking.
My name is Abood Bakri. I'm an internal medicine doc. I am traditionally trained, but I also work on the biohacking, health experimentation, health optimization side of all things. So keep my hands in both worlds, managing people that are very sick, but also keeping people out of the hospital, making sure they never get sick. And that's what brings us to, peptides, hormones, light, all these kind of therapies to help structure biology better, help people live better lives, undo the damage of modern living.
Dude, you left out a huge one though, is that the enhanced games.
The enhanced games are Olympics with steroids. Our athletes that are going to be enhanced, they're going to be on doctor-prescribed protocols. Every steroid you can imagine, whether that's
Sick.
testosterone, Anavar, oxandrolone, that's Anavar, nandrolone, whatever it may be. These athletes are going to be enrolled in an IRB. They're going to be studied meticulously. They're going to be tracked, and they're going to compete next month in May in Las Vegas for this inaugural games. And I'm a advisor on the DDC side, but also on the medical commission. The goal is to take what we learn about the athletes and translate it to the layperson so they can enhance their lives.
You're a voice that's in the trenches with people who are talking about things 5 years ahead of time from like forums, but at the same time, you're not allowing people on the internet to be like, sepsis isn't real.
Dude, he really is writing the book.
I agree.
For how to change from the sick model to the wellness model. We've gotten to this point where like there's this subset of people who don't want to just be not sick.
Right.
Right. And like everyone's like, well, how can I be better? How can I feel better? How can I look better? How can I act better? And like, to be honest with you, no one in medicine until you has kind of really stepped up with these evidence-based protocols, diving deep into the research, like trying to find through history, which we'll go into and all this stuff. And like, even you practice what you preach, right? Most doctors, they don't even do what they tell people to do.
You're at a party, you're at dinner, you're in someone's backyard, and someone asks the question, what is a peptide?
I mean, it's a chain of amino acids that can signal different aspects of the body to change. The body runs on this genetic code, right? It goes DNA, RNA, proteins. That's like biology 101. First day biology, you learn that. You have your DNA gets encoded into RNA. The RNA gets transcribed, translated. Now it's a protein. These proteins go do different things in the body. So you have a protein that is going to control your skin and your heart and the heart muscles and different things that exist within biology. These proteins, smaller fragments of them are called peptides. So proteins are made of amino acids, and so are peptides. So these peptides can be hormones. They can be signaling molecules. They can be epigenetic enhancers or downregulators. So that's why I really hate the term peptide. I think I've made that clear because I don't think it exists as a category in people's minds. Scientifically, it does exist, but if you go to any peptide site, there's non-peptides that they're selling on there. There's
Right. They're like glutathione. It's
yeah.
like, what are you doing?
Every podcast starts out, oh, insulin's a peptide. Technically, it's not. It's long enough to be a protein, depending on where you cut off the amino acid chain. Like
Is
Right.
it 39 right now?
That's what the rule is now. 39, and then above 40, it's a biologic. But
Okay.
that's more of like an FDA requirement because they're trying to get Retta not to be allowed.
Right.
Which is 38, right?
Yeah,
Red
yeah.
is 38.
So they're trying to increase it.
Branched chain amino acids is something people take for exercise.
Yes.
Right. And so branched chain amino acids do almost nothing to you physically, but you have a peptide that can make you lose weight. So it's like, how do you go from
Yeah.
a branched chain amino acid to like a bioactive peptide, basically?
Right. So I think the way we got to think about this is that there's these 20 canonical amino acids, and they're the language that we can paint with when it comes to peptides and proteins. And like you can get as small of a peptide as Vilon, which is 2 amino acids, or you can go into insulin, which is a giant chain of amino acids. Retta, as we mentioned, in the 30s, BPC being 15. There's this variety. So the way I like to think about it is the subcategories. I don't like to think about peptides because they're not different than supplements and they're not different than drugs. Like in my mind, I don't think of supplements, peptides, and drugs as different things. They're all exogenous molecules. The first dichotomy I look at is this peptide a receptor-based peptide, or does it bind to a receptor and activate a pathway like the GLP-1s? GIP, glucagon, or is it a cell signaling, changing the structure of proteins, changing the structure of mitochondria like SS31, or is it epigenetic regulator like the bioregulators? Now, when you look at it that way, then I break them down into all the different categories because that actually gives me a useful discussion tool to talk about it. Colloquially, peptides are these mostly injectable, sometimes orally available chains of amino acids that can fine-tune biology. That's what you tell your mom.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good.
Or
That's
I'll
a
tell your
great-
mom.
Yeah.
I'll take it easy. Take it easy.
Now that we understand what a peptide is, what is a bioregulator within that class?
Bioregulator class are a class of peptides mostly discovered by a gentleman named Dr. Vladimir Kavinson. He's a Soviet or former Soviet scientist. He's passed now. I'd say out of everybody who's been in the peptide space, from Goldstein to Sikrich to all these people, he probably has the most peptides that have been patented. Bioregulators are 2 to 4, maybe 2 to 8 chain of amino acids that really work at a DNA level in changing gene expression. So they're very subtle peptides. They're often orally bioavailable, not all of them. And they allow you to kind of modulate genetics in a way that is more youthful and is more conducive to the types of performance, longevity goals that we're looking for. Now, technically, GHK is a bioregulator, but not discovered by Dr. Kavinson.
Okay.
So, because GHK is a 3 amino acid peptide
With copper on it at
Yep.
the end, right?
So they call these metallopeptides. So there's a number of these metallopeptides that we'll come across, like thymulin, GHK, and they biology likes to do this actually. Like hemoglobin is a protein with a iron molecule in the center.
Right.
So biology loves to use metals and amino acids together to paint life, as it were. These bioregulator peptides. I think Kavinson even said that had he discovered GHK, he would have called it a bioregulator. But it was discovered by an American doctor, Lauren Pickart, in the mid 70s, I think. And that one's pretty much the collagen bioregulator. But when it comes to the bioregulators, essentially these are short chains of amino acids that bind into the grooves of different DNA sections. And what happens with age, what happens with different epigenetic stress factors, parts of the DNA get cleaved off, closed off, and they're unable to be expressed. This is the sine qua non of aging. As you age, this is what happens. I mean, according to the Kavinsonian model, you use these bioregulators, you're able to kind of open up these youthful areas of DNA for better gene expression. Sounds kind of woo-woo, which is what I thought when I first was exposed to this genre of peptides, until you experience it yourself and you're like, hey, this is pretty dang potent.
And dude, we've all tried them. We'll get to that later, but like, it's crazy. What year did Dr. Kavinson do all this stuff?
I think on the box it says 1972 or 76.
50 years ago.
Yeah.
And dude, we're sitting here talking about like people online are like, you trust these peptides? They've been around for like 6 months. No, they haven't.
You heard about it 6 months.
Let's talk about Dr. Kavinson. How did he find these peptides?
Post World War II, that's when science really accelerates. On the biological level, physics, nuclear bombs, whatever it is, people are racing forward. And you get Soviet-based technologies and science, and you get American. The Soviet model was about human performance. Dr. Kavinson is like this top superstar doctor working in St. Petersburg. He gets recruited by the Soviet government to fix a couple of problems that they're having. Number one, they're hearing that Americans are coming out with eye lasers They're going to blind soldiers. And then number two, they're noticing that the Russian astronauts, pilots were aging very rapidly. Dr. Kavan-Zinn was tasked with solving this problem. From around 1880, I'd say, till that time in the 70s, the big excitement was about using animal extracts for different medicinal purposes. You take the pituitary, you take the pineal.
Kind of like this organ alchemy.
Yes.
Let's unpack this.
Yes.
So you have Kavan-Zinn, Dr.
Yes.
Kavan-Zinn, in the 70s,
Yes.
going dissecting animals after they're dead, taking thymus, grinding it, putting it in a syringe, injecting it in people, brain tissue,
Yep.
right? They take the pineal gland, which regulates sleep and stuff, and seeing what happens.
Yep. And the reason that is that there are glands and organs in the body that age much faster than other glands and organs. And I think we assume that aging is uniform, and it's not. So some parts of the body age much faster than other parts of the body. So our goal is to figure out how to, slow this down, undo it, and allow these systems to come back online. So what they were noticing in these like astronauts, pilots, whatever they may be, is that their immunity was going down. Their sleep-wake rhythm was being disturbed. Their energy levels, other hormonal systems were all downchurned. And what Kavan-Zinn called this was premature aging syndrome, right? That has a different meaning when we talk about it in the Western context, but he just talked about it as premature aging, which you'll notice a lot of people nowadays, they're in their 30s, but they look 50, and some people are 60 and they look 40. What Kavan-Zinn did was he took these glandular extracts, injected them into these pilots, and was able to undo some of this premature aging.
This is really important of what he said, which is that we look at the heart and the brain, we think of Alzheimer's, heart attack, right? Or stroke or something like that. These like cataclysmic events of aging, and we think, how can I avoid that? You said it's super powerful, which is that this is end stage. This is the ultimate explosion, but no one's looking at where the chemicals are engaging to cause that explosion. We don't think of those other organs.
If you lower people's LDL to the lowest possible, you can still predict people's heart attack risk based on their immune score. Immunity dictates what happens with atherosclerosis, and we know that because it's a macrophage that gets into the wall and all, that whole process that a cardiologist could explain to you. But why don't we look at immune aging very provocatively? Now, we've been talking about it on Twitter for the last 3-4 years. Nature 2026 landmark paper 2 months ago was the thymus. Maybe this is the key to longevity. The sequence in my mind, it goes pineal gland, puberty, thymus shrinks really fast after puberty, pituitary, somatopause, that's when you stop making growth hormone in sufficient amounts. You get adrenal gland shifts, gonads shrink, that's andropause, menopause. Then you get cardiometabolic disease, you get the vascular aging, so you're gonna get heart attack, stroke, endothelial damage, you get cardiac remodeling and cardiac damage, Alzheimer's, dementia, and then somewhere along that path you have cancer, can strike anywhere there. But these 4 earlier systems we talked about, pineal, thymus, pituitary, adrenal, really dictate what happens to these other systems.
Yeah.
So if we're able to intervene here when someone's young, we can change the trajectory. Besides just offering them like, hey, I'm gonna give you a statin now at 30 so you don't get a heart attack at 60. That could be an approach, but I think we could be more aggressive, especially we know there's also the studies of circadian rhythms and shift workers are more likely to get disease. What organ's being impacted there? It's the pineal gland. So anything we can do from behaviors, from exogenous compounds to have better melatonin production, which is the number one antioxidant mitochondrial boosting thing. Like everyone talks about MOTS-c and SS31. Melatonin is what your mitochondria actually needs. We could do that. We can engage early, use different light therapeutics, use different peptides, even hormones to modulate these things, like a few 100 milligrams of melatonin as an experiment. The idea here is that let's zoom in, see what's done by these giants before us, and then build on their work, kind of organize it into the modern framework, measure these things. We can measure melatonin levels. We can measure different lymphocytes and thymic hormones in the blood, and then use them aggressively to change people's systems.
With medicine, we've basically solved most of the stuff that'll kill you outside of like a plane crash or like cancer, like the big ones. Like most of the stuff, we're really good at keeping people alive. Right now we can focus on this stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah,
So
we're
it
not good at
opens-
keeping people healthy.
There you go.
Yeah. Which is the next phase, the natural next phase.
I want you to kind of go through Epidolon
Yeah.
and Pineolon, because those are the 2 big ones from Kavan-Zinn's research. Now the day comes where you decide, I want to try this on me. So walk me through that journey. You were like, I'm doing this because I'm convinced.
Been talking about circadian rhythms since my circadian rhythm was damaged by medical school training. That's when I got excited about it. And then we've heard there's this Epithalon, or Epitalon, however you want to say it. I don't know. You guys can flame me for saying it wrong. Was always in on the radar, like, hey, this is interesting. And then I saw it in the compound pharmacies. The compound pharmacies had Epitalon as an option. It's like in this anti-aging telomerase thing. It didn't excite me. I'm like, telomerase, whatever, not that exciting. Now, late 2024, the FDA moves a bunch of these peptides from the bulk substance list to the category 2 list, which means you cannot prescribe them.
Basically, full on restriction.
Yes, Epitalon is one of these peptides. But they found Pinelion. I was like, oh, that's similar. Pinelion. Let's just throw that in. And that became the prescription available thing on the formulary. So I'm like, we should really investigate this Caventin guy. I started noticing in my practice that people's immune markers were looking very poor. And I started keeping an eye on that, on their CBCs, their differentials, looking at lymphocyte panels. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Like post-pandemic, not to get conspiratorial or anything, people are not doing so hot from an immune perspective. Let's see like what's going on in the world of that. And that's what, sends us down the thymus rabbit hole. Caventin in the 70s gets 2 extracts that he patents as medications, epithylamine or epithylamine, however it's said, and thymolin. These are the 2 big drugs that he makes in Russia. And he runs a large study on this for elderly people. He goes to nursing homes and gives these people for 15 years. So this is the longest peptide study that's been done. And it has crazy results, almost unbelievable. Part of our Russophobia, part of it is maybe Caventin wasn't to Western standards of research. He had these people do these 2 peptides for short courses at the beginning of the year or twice a year. And he noticed in the peptide group, that they had like a 2.4x less mortality rate over 15 years.
Just from taking it twice a year.
Yep.
For what was it, like
2.4x.
6 weeks or?
10-day courses.
Oh, 10-day course. Okay.
Yep. 10-day injections of epithylamine and thymolin. Not thymulin. Everyone confuses those two. We can get into that. Dramatic decreases in cardiac mortality, in cancer mortality, in pneumonia risk, in fall risk. All these things were published out. So I'm like, hey, there's something going on here. Like we should examine this a little further. I get some of these peptides, get access to them. And then we start experimenting. I didn't think Epitalon could be orally administered, and the group that was bringing it to market, I'm like, dude, don't waste your time. This is kind of stupid. Caventin does the studies. He figures out that these extracts work, but he takes it a step further, and this is where he differentiates himself from the rest of the field. He goes like, what's in these extracts that's actually causing the effect? And what he found was these short chain amino acids are driving a lot of the effect. So in the 70s and 80s, there's a big branch in thymus research. There's the Goldstein group, that is an American group that looks at thymosin fraction 5, and that is the big thymus protein that gets cleaved off into different peptides. You get thymosin alpha 1, thymosin beta 4, and the ones that you kind of commonly see on the peptide marketplace. And then Caventin goes in and looks at ground up thymuses and finds these different peptides, Biolon, thymogen.
So basically, can you think of it as like this is crude oil being refined into gasoline? Is that like kind of, so you have this mashed up thymus and in there you have these raw ingredients and they each do a specific thing.
Is there any similar effect in how BPC 157 has completely different effects when it's taken orally?
Yeah,
so they do have different effects.
Yep, they do have different effects, especially when it comes to Epitalon. Pinelion is, I would say, I think the oral is better on Pinelion personally, but the Epitalon, theoretically, you get better effects if you did both. So Caventin figures out that there's these short chain amino acids, these bioregular peptides, very different than the peptides that are being discovered in the Western world. We're discovering the thymosins here. Thymosin alpha 1, it's like 20 plus amino acids, thymosin beta 4. He's looking for these short chain ones that don't really have receptors and they will bind at the grooves of different DNA. And he'll discover that later on. He doesn't even know how these work yet. What I like to do whenever it comes to these topics is kind of get into the head of the researcher. Because if you get into their head, you really understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. You can kind of dissect out
what their theories were and everything. Yeah.
Right. Caventin does this. He figures out that there's these small peptides within it, epithylamine. He finds Epitalon, which is 4 amino acids. He finds Violon in thymolin, which is 2 amino acids. He finds thymogen, which is 2 amino acids, and then Christogen, which is 3 amino acids. And he starts doing experiments on animals with these amino acids synthesized independently. So you don't even need to go kill a 6-month-old cow to get thymolin. You can just,
synthesize it, because it's like Lego bricks of amino acids.
Right, so he starts moving that forward, and that's where we get him making a lot of these supplemental peptides that were available over the counter. So he made 6 drugs formally. We got to the retina story earlier, but he had a retina drug, he had the thymus drug, he had the epithylamine, he had and a couple of other ones, cortexin, which is the brain extract.
I mean, he created a whole discipline, right?
There's at least 10 groups working on thymus extracts.
I just want to know what happened. Like, what's the in between?
Dude, I liken it to, I was saying it before, it's like the burning of the Library of Alexandria.
It's just that the Western world didn't really care about these organs, didn't really care about this kind of science. And then when the Soviet Union collapses, Kabat-Zinn loses all of his funding. From 91 onwards, Kabat-Zinn's like trying to sell peptide supplements to fund his research. Poor guy. So like he gets kind of handicapped. And this is the kind of the case in science. Like most scientists don't get appreciated until they die.
Until 100 years after they die.
Yeah. Like Ray Peat's more popular now than when he was
Right,
alive.
totally. Okay, so the first day you decide, what's your initial protocol when you first took
we
it?
get some powders of these from undisclosed sources. And we kind of look through to see what the animal literature looked like, try to compare some doses. We settled on like 1 milligram or 2 of Pineleon, knowing that the injectable in the pharmacies was some kind of course like that, 1 milligram a day injectable. We tried it oral. Kabat-Zinn also then finds, after he finds the amino acids, finds the receptors in the stomach that would uptake these di and tripeptides. Because like everyone doubted him. Like, you're crazy. What do you mean peptides get broken down in the stomach acid? You're stupid. What are you trying to sell people peptides for? He goes out a step further. Not only does he find the extracts work, he finds what amino acids and peptides aren't in the extracts that are working. He finds how they get uptaken into the body.
In the 70s, no
Yes.
less.
So
too.
like this is happening like 80s, 90s now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So he's doing all the work. Then he finds out where in the DNA, he does DNA modeling studies to find where in the DNA each one of these peptides binds. And then it kind of explains some of the effects.
Wild.
We get the really high quality Pineleon. We try that out orally. The first day, you're talking about 8K dreams, like the most vivid dreams. We all get whoops. Me and my group, we all got whoops. We're trying out Pineleon. We're noticing like 2 hours and a half.
And you
3
took
hours
them
around.
both at the same time
No.
to start? Or
All-
you
all
started with,
separately.
which one did you start with?
Pineleon.
Pineleon.
Yeah. And what we started noticing is like the more damaged someone's brain was from like night shifts or excessive drinking or drug abuse or Adderall abuse, the more they responded positively to Pineleon. I usually sleep like between 5 and 7 hours depending on the work schedule. I wanted to sleep 10 hours. Like I don't sleep in. I'm usually up at 5 a.m. Like I wanted to sleep in. I wanted to relax. It was like the most delicious sleep. That's the only way to describe it. It was like a synesthesia when it came to sleep.
So I had a completely different reaction.
Yep.
I normally sleep till like 9,
Yeah.
right? I would just wake up at like 6 a.m. and like I'm awake.
Yep.
2 hours of sleep, 6 hours, doesn't matter.
Yep.
Like I'll just wake up early.
And the joke is that he sleeps in because he's up all night working and he sleeps late. This like tied him
changed him.
immediately
Yeah.
back to the
I don't like
sun's
it at all.
schedule.
Okay, so Pineleon has nothing to do with the pineal gland. I still don't know why Kabat-Zinn called it pineal gland. Like I've been trying to ask. If someone in Russia knows, please let us know.
I've been a little confused about that. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
it's very confusing. And every single peptide site gets this wrong. They get it wrong on thymolin, they get it wrong on thymulin, and they get it wrong on Pineleon. There's thymulin with an A and thymulin with a U. Two different peptides.
Okay.
And then there's Pineleon that has nothing to do with the pineal gland. Very confusing. But Pineleon, actually, what happened was Kabat-Zinn got a brain extract. He ground up brains. That was a common thing to do in Russia, I guess, in the 80s. And he made something called Cortexin, a drug in Russia given to like kids who have TBIs and cerebral palsy patients. And there's good research on what it does. Now, like, these are human clinical trials. Like people are complaining about BPC, like there's no human trials. Like Kabat-Zinn did the work in humans.
Yeah.
Documented side effects, documented everything. He makes Sirolitin, which is the oral version, it's ground up pig or cow brain. And then he finds Pineleon as the main active ingredient in this, and then starts giving people Pineleon on their own. Like he'd megadose rats on this, make rats do races, make rats do like all these different things with Pineleon and crazy effects. There's like 20% people will have your results. 80% people will have more similar to what I talked about. Now, I'm in your boat.
Because I guess as you undo the damage, you have layers of
Yes.
healing, I guess.
Yeah, it's very woo-woo the way we're talking
Yeah.
about this. The way I'm thinking about it is like it seems that Pineleon is interacting with mitochondria in the brain specifically, modulating like PPR alpha, PPR gamma, these metabolic pathways. Like some people notice their A1C goes down.
Interesting.
Very strange. And 2 people in the last 24 hours, coincidence, didn't plan to say this today, but said that their lipomas started regressing on Pineleon.
Very weird
compound.
stuff. So I started with Pineleon.
Yeah.
And then I did Epitalon later.
Yeah.
I don't want to take both of them at the same time. So I was like, let me go 2 days and switch the Pineleon to the morning.
Yep.
And then I'll add in the Epitalon at night. Dude, when I switched the Pineleon to the morning, my dreams were still great.
Yep.
But then like my thinking was so much clearer. Like it took like this, like normally there's like the startup time in the morning. It just like
Recall, too.
eliminated that.
Yep.
And then when I took the Epitalon, and this is really interesting, okay? I'm the type of guy where I get in bed at a reasonable hour and I start answering emails. I work with people in all time zones.
Right.
So when I'm going to sleep, people are waking up. So, and my wife will tell me like, come on, go to bed already. Cause like I'm working. Epitalon, it's like 11 o'clock comes, my eyes close. No matter, my screen could be white, bright, max brightness. My eyes are just like
Dum, 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 dum.
shutdown time.
Right.
It's crazy. It does feel like something is improving, even if it's an undesirable event like sleeping in, having a nap. Now I can nap again. It's almost like it brought my parasympathetic system back online.
It does.
Yeah.
So did you notice your HRV also went up?
I don't track it anymore, but my HRV was trash.
Yeah. So like my HRV almost doubled. Like
It's
I-
crazy
huge
stuff.
Because he studied it on shift workers and people that were traveling, and that's when he had like the best effect for the oral Epitalon. I think he did a sublingual study, and they actually measured circadian clock gene expression. Was able to show like more melatonin in the urine in the morning, higher cortisol in the morning, lower cortisol at night. He showed like the clock genes, like all these different clock one, clock whatever it may be, changed in the cells. There's human trials showing that it changed circadian rhythms. We love circadian rhythm and circadian rhythmicity and blue light blocking glasses and bright morning sunlight. Now, if you stack Epitalon plus some blue light blockers plus morning sunlight, you get way more bang for your buck out of all three of them. It's like 2 + 2 = 9. So it's
that's
very
really crazy.
Epitalon also has effects on the eye. So like on the eye bioregulator extract. So Epitalon was first found in the pineal gland. It's found in the eye. It's found in the pituitary. You'll find it in the testicular extract.
So this is produced naturally in the human body.
So the-
Epitalon.
Yes, yeah. So all of us have Epitalon in us right now. And what it seems
I
like
think that's an important thing to say. I don't think
To
people
understand.
realize
There's-
that.
there's-
They're
not something-
naturally occurring available compounds that decrease with age, like GHK, for example, that analogous structure we can compare. That one goes down from like 60 to 70% from age 20 to 60.
Is it fair to say every single bioregulator that we're talking about is naturally produced in the body?
They all are.
They all are.
Yeah.
Because I know BPC 157 is technically not found in dogs or.
So BPC 157 is part of a bigger protein called BPC. That's
Right.
a 40,000 Dalton body protection compound they first found. They cut off a fragment of it that has 15 amino acids and found that to be doing most of the effect. So they call
okay,
that
so it's a
BPC 157.
fraction of of a more naturally occurring
Yep.
thing.
So,
that's the thing. It's nature adjacent
Yes.
rather than nature. But bioregulators are all found in
Yes.
nature in their exact form.
So, for example, like no one's really talked about this. Thymosin alpha 1 has Violon, I think, 3 times in the chain.
Oh, interesting.
So the first thing we did as soon as we found this is we took the sequence of every protein and then searched for the bioregulator in that sequence. I have my Claude looking for Epitalon in either the melatonin production genes or serotonin transferase genes, trying to find out where Epitalon's coming from. I haven't found it
Right.
yet. So maybe someone can figure that out. But these are all fragments of bigger things. So Kabat-Zinn, what he's proposing changes the dogma of medicine. So like when we went to undergrad, learned biology, it goes DNA, RNA, protein binds to DNA and causes the cycle to go on, right? What Kabat-Zinn has done is created a arrow between proteins. Proteins get fragmented into peptides. These peptides go into the DNA, change gene expression. So he's proposing a different, addition to the central dogma of medicine.
We talked about like TJ's
Yeah.
mom, right? If TJ's mom was here and she's like, I took Epitalon, I took Penialon, and I'm having amazing sleep. What's happening to my body?
Epitalon's finding its way to its pineal gland through a mechanism which we do not understand. It must be going through the bloodstream into the pineal gland and increasing the production of melatonin at the level of the pineal gland. We've hypothesized it might also be happening systemically because most of the melatonin in your body is actually not made in your pineal gland. It's made systemically in the cells themselves, in the mitochondria. So there's like a cellular level of melatonin that happens all day, especially when exposed to infrared light. So right now we have no infrared light exposure. We're being starved of melatonin. Our cells are suffering as a result.
Right.
Traditionally, humans always had infrared light exposure. Epitalon's increasing that melatonin production. It's increasing what it appears to us, the sensitivity of the eye to light. Melanopsin is the key photoreceptor in the eye that dictates the circadian rhythmicity. So for the layperson, light hits your eye. That light gets transduced through different nerves, through melanopsin, through the SCN. The SCN is part of the brain, goes to the pineal gland, tells the pineal gland to stop making melatonin. And then your body responds by increasing ACTH in the pituitary, or increasing cortisol systemically, and you're awake. The opposite happens at night. You're supposed to have dim light, no light. Your melanopsin is not being stimulated by that blue light. No blue light hits the eye. The SCN tells the pineal to start making melatonin, and you are falling asleep, you're getting sleepy. As we age, and with modern living, that whole process gets messed up both ways. You'd expect if you were so tired all day, you'd sleep so deeply at night. What's happening to most people is they have very low energy all day and very poor sleep at night because the amplitude of both directions is very poor. What we want to do is increase energy during the day and increase depth of sleep at night.
Right.
And that's the sharper the circadian rhythm, the more the difference between day and night is, the better that's going to exist.
It's also analogous to what's happening on sex hormones,
Yes.
right? Men are becoming feminized and
Yeah.
women are becoming more masculine.
Yes.
It's almost like we're losing polarity
There you go.
in life across the board. What's happening it's also to TJ's mom with
Yes.
Pineolon?
With Pineolon, it seems that there is preclinical models that Cavenson looked at where it was repair of dendrite spines in the neurons of the nerves. So the nerves are working better in the brain. You're getting better metabolic function at the level of the brain, because what happens with aging is we get insulin resistance in the brain itself. It appears that Pineolon may be modulating some of these pathways. For example, we know that myokines, hormones that are produced by the muscle during exercise, can go to the brain and have beneficial effects. So it appears that Pineolon is either amplifying these effects, turning on certain of these pathways. It's not very clear, but the brain is working at a better rate.
I've seen someone use the analogy that Pineolon is almost like sanitation department of the brain. And it's like taking the garbage out of the brain.
So I'm somebody that obviously it was because I was really bad with circadian rhythm. Funny
Mm-hmm.
enough, your content is what made me start wearing blue light blockers. I'm serious though. Anytime I took more than 2 milligrams of melatonin, it had the opposite effect for me.
Interesting.
It made me wake up.
Yeah.
Pineolon, the first time I took it at night and I couldn't sleep.
Yep.
So I gave him my bottle.
Yeah.
And then I tried it again after reading your stuff and talking to my friends here. And I took it during the day, and then I had the positive effects.
And
But
then
it's
I
just-
gave it to my wife, and she couldn't sleep, and I woke up with a very angry woman.
It's very interesting. Like I keep posing, these are not sleep peptides. These are brain and circadian rhythm peptides, right?
of course.
And they kind of meet you where you are.
Yes.
It's all your fault. You told me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tell everybody, like, take it at dinner, see how you do. If you are certainly like suddenly awake and feel great, that's a morning driver for you. That's like maybe 20-30% of people.
That's me.
If you get very sleepy, it's a nighttime driver. Almost everybody eventually ends up in the first boat. Pineolon's a great addition to your coffee. It's a great addition to your Adderall if that's what you do. It's a brain performance enhancing compound. It's a body performance enhancing compound at the level of the nerve muscle interface. So like people will take it athletically. Like Cavenson was doping the Russian team in the Olympics with all these bioregulators for years.
So you're saying we're going to see it in the enhanced games?
They haven't used them in the enhanced games for the athletes, but we're going to change that.
With a lot of peptides, right? There's going to be side effects,
Right.
especially GLP-1s, just aren't natural to our bodies.
Right.
Throughout the historical studies, have we seen much in the way of side effects?
We wanted to approach this very rigorously and not just assume that, oh, peptides are great, let's use
Yeah.
peptides. The only side effect is if you take too much, you get very lethargic. Like we've gone up to 5-10 milligrams and you'll get kind of sleepy, but nothing out of the ordinary and nothing noted in the animal data or the human trials that Cavenson ran. So they're not like randomized double-blind clinical studies
Yeah.
that you'd approve a medication for. But Pineolon's not a medication. Like
Yeah.
people keep like, hey, is this a med? It's a supplement.
Yeah.
It's a natural occurring food ingredient that's a supplement.
Yeah.
Now, will the FDA regulate it that way as a supplement? Who knows? But so far, it's over the counter in Kazakhstan and all the Soviet countries, so you can
Right.
get it there. Epitalon, there is concerns about its telomerase extending effects. So notice that if you go to Epitalon, any peptide site, they talk about telomerase and anti-aging. That wasn't even my interest in it. My interest in it was from the circadian rhythmicity, because I know if you have a higher, better, more calibrated circadian rhythm as a young person, you're going to have better health for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Now, it seems that a side effect of increasing melatonin production and DNA repair, you're getting telomerase to extend your DNA. Now, for the layperson, at the end of your DNA, there's these telomeres. These are like fragments of DNA to protect the DNA from getting sliced up too much. And with age, they shrink, which makes your DNA more vulnerable to the effects of aging. You get the Hayflick limit, which limits the amount of times a cell can divide. Epitalon seems to undo that limit, increase the telomeres, so your DNA is more protected, as it were. There's a concern that if you have cancer, would Epitalon be risky in that case? There's no data about that, but that is a theoretical concern.
Just
That
like
can
my
be-
GH, how people worry
Yes.
about that too.
Yes.
Similar type of concern.
Yes. Now GH is interesting because GH actually grows the thymus. There's the TRIM trial showing that happens. So that's probably why GH hasn't had the bad longevity effects that people expected, cancer rates and immunity, because it's probably helping out on the thymus side.
Interesting.
It's very
Whoa.
interesting.
Yeah, and those effects actually kick in like majority of the time, 6 to 12 months into the GH therapy. It's not even an acute thing.
Oh,
So
wow. So it takes time. Should everyone be taking these two?
I don't like to speak like these peptide influencers that
I
say
know.
everyone.
Can you think of a
I think-
person that shouldn't be taking this
think-
besides an active cancer?
I think everybody should be on a Epitalon circadian protocol.
Okay.
I'm comfortable saying that. Like everybody
Fair enough.
should be on a circadian protocol. I mean, let's step back. Everybody should wake up in the morning without brain fog.
Yeah.
Everybody should wake up energized. Everyone should go to bed at 11 p.m., 10 p.m. and feel very tired and wake up rested.
Yeah.
I think that's a natural human right that's been deprived from us thanks to modern living.
And we need to use these things as
Yes.
tools to restore that.
Yes.
So what would be the protocol?
Minimum
We don't have to
effective
say-
dose time?
Yes,
Yeah,
minimum effective dose.
Abood, I think that we have covered a lot of ground. And what we find is so many people just say, sir, how much do I take? Right?
Tell me what to do.
We have this thing called minimum effective dose.
Yep.
And we would love for you to tell someone who probably says, I have Epidolon and Pinolon in my hand. I'm about to drink the whole bottle. I'm about to take all the pills. Tell me what to do instead.
Yep.
So like, how would you kind of guide someone? And don't be afraid to leave it out, like outside of the scope of that. Cause I think a lot of the circadian principles that you preach is really going to tie into this.
This is not medical advice. It's for research purposes only.
Damn, dude, we're gonna get in trouble for research now.
ROU.
Just kidding. So when it comes to these peptides, I've written and deleted the guide many times because it's hard to find the thing that works for every single person. If you do too high of a dose of Epitolon at night, it can get you agitated and alert. We'll notice that happen to people because Epitolon also binds in the pituitary. So you're activating, your TSH, your LH, your FSH, maybe too aggressively
Right.
at those times. The point is, these aren't acute drivers. It's not like you pop a pill of caffeine and you run with them. They're changing the overall state of the system. So we want to move the system to more productive state, to more restorative state. So that's why I don't like the term biohacking. I like biorestoration.
Love
Because
it.
at minimum, people need to come ready to restore the biology to what it should be before modernity ruined everyone's biology, right?
There's a really important point to add on to there too. Biorestoration. If you're not hurt, this is not going to fix anything.
Yes, yes.
And I know that's like very layman terms, but like if there's nothing broken,
Yes.
there's nothing to be fixed here. That's
Right.
also why you said you're seeing what the results are when you give them to patients, correct?
Yep,
At the
yep.
beginning, just to make sure that it's actually worth the protocol.
Yeah. For anything I do, I want to get notes so I can help this person the next time they see me.
Yeah.
So the goal is
Yeah.
like, what I learned about you today is going to help me in 6 months, 6 years to help you out down the road because you want to create this longitudinal relationship with the patient.
How often are you doing the cycles for these?
From a Cavinson's perspective, his answer would be like a 10-day course, 3 to 4 times a year. What I worry about is that our circadian rhythms are so damaged nowadays that we may need more of that.
There wasn't really much blue light 50 years
Yeah,
ago.
so they're doing incandescence. Like it's different. It's a different world where we grew up with phones in our pockets. Like what was that? A TV, like a non-colored
Yeah.
TV.
Right.
So like it's a different world. I finding myself running it much more often because of the behavior of my work, the cognitive demands that I have. So I'm running it pretty often actually. I haven't settled on an answer. I don't know what the answer is. That's what makes me hesitant to give a.
Well, that's also
Yeah.
what makes you
Everybody-
special.
Yeah, good answer to-
Yeah, that you're not afraid to say that.
I want to know like what would be the ideal thing. What I try to tell people is to have biological awareness, right? You have this feedback, intuitive feedback. If you're noticing you're waking up with more brain fog, maybe it's time to bring Pinolon back. If you're noticing your circadian clock isn't as regulated, maybe it's time to bring Epitolon back. What I notice is when people take Epitolon and they take it consistently, they start waking up naturally around sunrise.
This guy.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I love it.
Because I like to work late into the
Yeah,
night,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I got 4 hours of sleep.
He called me
Today's
the other
gonna
day,
suck.
8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, is this you?
Circadian rhythm is really controlled by sunlight during the day, but the magnetic field of the earth during the night. And the pineal gland seems to have a magnetic pole to it somehow. Whatever Epitolon is doing to the pineal gland, it's modulating that effect and making you wake up with the local time zone, which is crazy.
Wild.
That's
Right?
really cool.
It has a protocol on people who travel time zones a lot, I
It would
guess,
be like
right?
good
For
for the
travel,
eyelids
for
or
work.
something, probably.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. It could make you more sensitive to blue light, so it make you stay up later. So, like, what I would say is use this compound with circadian principles.
Right.
We'll have a nice little product to help you guys out with that soon here. But calibrating your circadian clock is going to slow down the aging of all the other systems we mentioned earlier. Because, like, if you look up circadian rhythm, heart, circadian rhythm, brain, circadian rhythm, cancer, you'll find dozens of studies on this. Nobody's doing it because, once again, there's no subspecialty that really takes care of circadian rhythms. Sleep medicine is really about like sleep apnea, insomnia, weird sleep disorders.
Yeah, like narcolepsy.
Yes,
is
yeah,
like
yes.
random
They don't
stuff.
really manage, the circadian rhythm of the healthy 35-year-old CEO.
Right.
Right. You know
Still
what I'm saying?
stuck in the sick model for
Yes.
sure.
But like a lot of folks in the field can be a little rigid.
Yep.
Do you catch shit for this? That's my
Oh
question.
yeah, always. I mean, So far, no one in the hospital really knows of my alternative identity.
Until now.
Wait until next week.
Yeah, a couple of nurses were like, "Hey, I saw you on that podcast," but they don't know that I dabble in this world.
Right.
They're not ready for it. Like yesterday in the office, we're talking about GLP-1s and Retta and all, and they're like, "What? What's going on there?" Like their thought process is so rigid on treating disease, and it's so hard to balance both worlds because you have to know the literature here and know this secondary literature.
Yeah.
It's impossible to keep up.
Yeah. It's two
You
different
said
models.
20 to
of
30
skills.
hours a week you're
Yes,
doing
yeah,
of
yeah.
research. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's
It's
another
crazy.
job.
I would love to transition into talking about the regulatory landscape.
This is the
No one
spicy
knows if this stuff is legal, not legal, allowed, not allowed. This is like unlike anything I've ever seen before, and I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again.
Yep.
So
Alcohol
what we need
pads.
to talk about is there's been a lot of changes, and honestly, by the time this episode airs in like a week or two, things might change,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
So the Biden administration moved these like 12 peptides to this kind of forever banned state, right? That they took it off
Forever-ish,
and-
yeah.
forever-ish, and so it was then moved to research use only, right? That was the only way you could kind of get it. Is that fair to say?
Let's zoom back.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
People
ahead.
have been doing peptides for 20, 30 years. Like the guy who trained me, the guy who trained him was slanging peptides to the Olympians in the 90s. This is not new.
Not our Olympians. No,
yeah,
no.
exactly. Right?
Russian Olympian.
The GHRHs were used clinically. They're FDA-approved drugs.
Yeah,
So,
tesamorelin is
tesamorelin,
FDA
tesamorelin.
approved.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are drugs that are around.
Ipamorelin as well.
So I hate the peptide conversation, but on these niche websites, since 2012, people have been getting. I mean, I was into peptides before I was a doctor, right? People have been buying these peptides kind of low key. No one really cared about it. It was like you buy BPC for research use only. You inject it.
Right.
Bodybuilders knew about it in the powerlifting community where I was. Everyone was using that. Now, what happens is the GLP-1s come on the scene. People weren't down to inject things before.
No.
Like why are you
Ozempic
gonna inject?
was the gateway
Yes.
drug.
It changed the
100%.
way people viewed these compounds. And on top of that, the GLP-1s started popping out on these research websites. These research websites had BPC, TB500, GHK copper, melanotan-1, melanotan-2. General peptides. No one really cares about them that much. They're efficacious. They're not going to make people go crazy.
So where does that land pineolon and epidolon and the
So-
bioregulators?
Yes, if I sell you a extract of liver or pineal gland, that is over-the-counter supplement food ingredient. It's not under the FDA purview. It's it's a supplement. FDA doesn't regulate supplements. What RFK has recently said, this is the key thing no one's talking about. He said peptides are supplements.
Right.
They are not drugs. Therefore, FDA shouldn't get in the way of it. They should be regulated as supplements. These are injectable supplements. Now, we don't have that a precedent for injectable supplements.
Do we not? Like B12?
But B12 is a drug when it's an injection.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
for example, I can give you a B12 pill on Amazon, sell it to you, or I can inject you with B12, but that requires a prescription, and it's technically a drug. Like I prescribe thiamine IV bags in the hospital all the time.
People
So it's
don't
a
think of
delivery
it because as a drug because they can just go to their favorite IV place, which I do
Yeah.
very occasionally, and get all of this stuff.
Yes.
There's no prescription written from the patient's viewpoint.
But
Just
it's
you go
happening in the back end.
It's
Yes,
happening back
it
on
is,
it,
but the
or should be
patients
happening.
don't see it.
My wife last night we were in the Ordinary, the skincare store. She bought a GHKCU cream. It's a cream. It's
Yeah,
not. It's not
yeah, there you go.
injectable, so it's not considered a medication.
So it depends now. What is RFK and his administration going to decide on these? Are these prescribable supplements? If so, FDA can't regulate them. So what happened was they got moved in 2024 from this ability to be compounded to a do not compound category 2 list. They said that there was risk for safety. But someone injected a vial, it had a toxin in there or something, and who knows if
Right.
that's true. And these got moved away, and you cannot prescribe them. Now the compounders are very smart. They changed BPC into PDA. They instead of Epitelon, which was on the list because it's been used in the longevity circles for a long time, they use Pineolion. Some compounding pharmacies still can get you GHK and all these things anyways. They don't
Right.
care. They're just putting themselves up to liability. Now what RFK has said, okay, we're taking them off the category 2 list, and then we're going to review them in June and take all the human studies that, if they exist, which most of them don't have human data, and see what we want to do with these drugs. Now that's going to move it into a okay to compound phase. Is it okay for me as a physician to prescribe it and not get in trouble? Because if I'm in front of a medical board and they're like, hey, you prescribed Sally Joe TB4 and she got cancer the next year and she thinks that's the cause of her cancer.
Right.
And like, why were you prescribing a non-FDA approved drug?
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it
Right.
gets messy. And
That's-
also, like, the number one criticism that anybody says is like BPC, perfect example.
Yes.
Like, everyone's like, there's no human studies, or
Right.
not enough
Yeah.
human studies. Or
Well, there
whatever.
was a phase 1 and phase 2 trial. No one talks about these, unfortunately, with enemas for BPC.
Oh, for like ulcerative colitis or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
But
But-
I'm just talking about specifically, like, you get into an internet conversation
Yep.
or a little argument with someone, they're like, oh, there's no studies. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. So I guess we'll see in July then, right?
So we'll see. They're going to talk about. I think 7 of them are going to be considered to be brought back to a category 1 list, so they can be prescribed. But that still doesn't take away liability from
FDA standard because they're still not FDA.
from the medical board.
No,
standard.
Oh, from the medical board,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So the
right.
compounder, because
So
right
that
now
will just depend on state boards.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes. So
right.
it's going to be interesting. Now everyone assumes that peptides are legal. I'm like, it's more nuanced, more
Yeah, totally.
complicated than that. From our perspective, based on what we've talked about with legal, it seems that these oral ones are not drugs; they're supplements.
Right.
They need to get GRAS certification, which they should open up an avenue for that because they're naturally found food ingredients.
Yeah, makes sense.
But we'll see where that shakes out.
So right now it's a we'll see.
Yeah, it's a we'll see. At the same time, I don't want to be injecting grandma with non-FDA approved stuff that may have bad effects.
Right.
So you want to weigh the pros and cons in that. So that's why if I have a patient that I'm going to put on BPC, we're going to have this risk-benefit discussion. We're like, hey, we don't have that much human data. This seems to be effective. I've had good results with it. Many of my patients have had good results with it. There's enough anecdotal data. We want to try this for you. It may have risks to it. Are you okay with that? Do you sign
Consent.
Consent.
Yeah.
So I think that's how medicine should be a doctor-patient discussion, and we decide what we want to do. FDA should just be there to guide things, but it should not be in between the doctor and the patient.
I learned so much about the Cavinson stuff, and I thought I was like well acquainted with Dr. Cavinson, but I think it's only the beginning with this bioregulator space. I'm thinking like 4 more episodes that we got to bring you back on. Well, thanks for coming out, man. Really appreciate
My
it,
pleasure, guys.
and we'll see you next time.
That's another episode of Down to Health. See you later.